The horrifying secret in your fridge. Do you dare face this terrifying truth? Imagine this scene. You've just woken up after a restful night's sleep. The gentle morning sunlight streams through your window, and fresh air fills your home. You step into the kitchen. Open the fridge with a smile on your face. Pull out a vibrant yellow banana to pair with your cereal. Slice a fragrant piece of bread from yesterday. And brew a steaming cup of coffee to kickstart your day. Everything seems perfect, doesn't it? But what if I told you that right now? The very foods you're holding in your hands, the ones you trust completely from your sacred fridge, could be silently turning into merciless killers. Think I'm joking? Not at all. This is a chilling reality happening right in your kitchen. And I'm about to prove it to you. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, every year, up to 48 million Americans fall ill from foodborne illnesses, a number large enough to fill an entire city. Of those, over 3.000 never wake up again. And many of them are seniors, people with weakened immune systems unable to fight off the hidden dangers in foods they believe are safe. But here's the most horrifying part. A significant portion of these cases originate from the fridge itself, the very place you think is a fortress of protection for your food. Today, I'm taking you on a dramatic journey of discovery, unveiling 9 everyday foods you should absolutely never store in your fridge, along with the reasons they could become ticking time bombs for your health and your family's. Don't look away, because what you're about to learn could completely change how you view your kitchen, and might even save your life, your parents' lives, or the lives of anyone you love. Are you ready to confront this terrifying truth? Take a deep breath, because we're about to dive in. The fridge, a mighty hero or a silent betrayer? Before we dive into the list, let's pause for a moment to reconsider the fridge, that indispensable companion in modern life. Think about it. Before refrigerators existed, people relied on salt, smoke, or natural ice cellars to preserve food, a labor-intensive process that wasn't always effective. Then, in 1876, Carl von Linde, a German engineer, invented the gas compression refrigerator, ushering in a new era of food storage. Today, the fridge has become a symbol of convenience, helping us keep food fresh longer, reduce waste, and enjoy delicious meals no matter the season. But is it really as flawless as we've always assumed? For seniors, the group most vulnerable to foodborne illnesses, the fridge can sometimes be a double-edged sword. The CDC warns that an aging immune system makes them more susceptible to attacks from bacteria like Listeria, Salmonella, or E. coli, invisible enemies that can lurk in foods we'd never suspect. What's even scarier is that many of us, myself included in the past, carelessly toss everything into the fridge without realizing that cold temperatures aren't always a savior. In fact, the cold can turn familiar foods into deadly threats, stripping away nutrients, altering flavors, or even triggering dangerous chemical reactions we can't see with the naked eye. I remember the first time I heard about this. I laughed and thought, how could my fridge betray me? It's where I store all my tastiest treasures, from yogurt and fruit to last night's leftovers. But as I dug deeper, I realized not every food gets along with the cold. Some need open, dry spaces or even room temperature to maintain their quality and safety. Today, I'm not just sharing a list of 9 foods that hate the fridge. I'm bringing you real-life stories from my own experiences. Lessons I've learned through trial and error, fascinating scientific insights, and practical tips to turn your kitchen into a true health fortress. Let's explore each of these betrayers together and figure out how we can protect ourselves and our loved ones. Number 9. Potatoes, the sweet villain in a toxic mask. First on the list is the potato, a familiar staple in nearly every kitchen. Think about it. A plate of crispy French fries, a creamy bowl of mashed potatoes scented with butter, or a piping hot baked potato topped with melted cheese. Just picturing it is enough to make you hungry. Right? But if you're storing potatoes in your fridge, stop right now. The original content reveals that when potatoes are chilled, the starch inside them converts to sugar much faster than usual, a process that might sound harmless but is actually quite dangerous. Then, when you cook them at high temperatures like frying, baking, or even boiling, those sugars combine with amino acids to form acrylamide. a chemical compound linked to cancer in animal studies and currently under investigation for its effects on humans. That's not all. The cold also alters the potatoes' texture, turning them soft, mushy, dark, and far less appetizing than they should be. I used to be a devotee of keeping potatoes in the fridge. Every time I went to the supermarket, I'd buy a big bag to use over time, thinking the cold would keep them fresh longer. But one day, I decided to make roasted potatoes for a small get-together with friends. I grabbed the potatoes from the fridge, washed them, sliced them up, and roasted them with olive oil and a pinch of salt. When I brought them to the table, I was so confident, but my friends' reactions left me stunned. Why are these so sweet? The texture's so mushy, this isn't like normal roasted potatoes. I took a bite and, they were right. They had a bizarre sweetness and a mushy consistency like porridge. And no one wanted seconds. I puzzled over it until I read about acrylamide, a hidden enemy I'd unknowingly invited to my meal. From then on, I completely changed my habits. I now store potatoes in a mesh bag or bamboo basket, hanging them in a cool, shaded corner of my kitchen away from direct sunlight. The results are amazing. They stay firm, retain their natural flavor, and I no longer worry about hidden health risks. A neighbor of mine, Mrs. Lan, a cooking enthusiast, once told me she'd kept potatoes in the fridge for 10 years because she thought it was the professional way to store them. One day, she baked some for her grandkids as a snack, but everyone was surprised by the strange smell and unnatural sweetness. She called me over to ask, and when I explained about acrylamide, her eyes widened. Oh my goodness. I've been feeding my family toxic potatoes for a decade without knowing. She switched to storing them in her pantry after that and thanked me for saving her family's meals. She even joked, "Good thing I'm still around to tell this story." Acrylamide doesn't just show up in potatoes, it can form in other starchy foods cooked at high temperatures, like bread or packaged fries. But with potatoes, the cold fridge acts as a culprit that kickstarts this process earlier, significantly raising the risk. According to the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, acrylamide is a substance to monitor closely, and minimizing it in our diets is something we should all strive for. If you buy too many potatoes and can't use them all, try making mashed potatoes or fries and freezing them instead of leaving them whole in the fridge. It's convenient, safe, and prevents waste. For fresh potatoes, choose a dark, dry, cool spot. Around 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, is ideal. Number 8. Bread, from delicious to a dry, moldy disaster. Next up is bread, an indispensable companion for breakfast in millions of households worldwide. From peanut butter sandwiches, toast slathered with jam, to crusty baguettes dipped in soup, bread always brings warmth and satisfaction. Have you ever put bread in the fridge hoping to keep it fresh longer? If so, you're unwittingly turning this beloved food into a disaster. The original content explains that cold temperatures trigger a process called retrogradation, a scientific phenomenon where the starch in bread crystallizes rapidly when exposed to the cold. The result? Bread becomes dry, hard, loses its softness and elasticity, and actually spoils faster than if left at room temperature. Even worse, when you take it out, the uneven moisture turns it into a perfect mold incubator, a particular danger for seniors who are more susceptible to toxins from mold like mycotoxins. I was once a victim of this habit, and the memory still makes me shudder. One time, I bought a gorgeous loaf of sandwich bread from my favorite bakery, the soft kind with a faint barley aroma. Perfect for breakfast. Since I couldn't finish it right away, I popped it into the fridge, thinking the cold would keep it fresh for a few more days. 2 days later, I took it out to make an egg sandwich. But when I sliced it, I was floored. The bread was hard as a rock. Biting into it was dry and crumbly with crumbs falling everywhere. And it had a strange, off-putting smell. I tried toasting it, but it didn't help. It stayed tough and dry, with none of its original goodness. Upon closer inspection, I spotted tiny green mold specks in one corner. A horrifying experience I never want to repeat. From then on, I learned bread needs to breathe. I started using a bread box or paper bag at room temperature. And for longer storage, I slice it and freeze it in Ziploc bags. Trust me, a slice of bread from the freezer toasted up, is crispy on the outside, soft inside, and 100 times better than fridge-stored bread. A friend of mine, Hung, once told me about his grandmother. A frugal and careful woman. She kept bread in the fridge for 20 years. Convinced it was a family secret to keeping it fresh. The result? The whole family ate dry, rubbery bread for years without anyone daring to complain. Afraid of upsetting her, one day, Hung convinced her to try storing it outside in a bread box. And for the first time, she was amazed at how soft it stayed. She laughed. "Why didn't anyone tell me sooner? I thought I was doing it right." From then on, she changed her ways, and the family finally enjoyed good bread. Sometimes old habits die hard. Retrogradation is a natural process as starch cools after baking. But the fridge is cold, typically 32 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 to 4 degrees Celsius, accelerates it dramatically. This not only dries out the bread but also creates conditions for mold to thrive when it's removed. Due to trapped, uneven moisture. For seniors, mycotoxins from mold can cause serious health issues, from allergies to liver damage. If your bread gets a bit dry from sitting out too long, don't toss it. Spritz it with water, wrap it in foil, and bake at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 to 10 minutes. You'll get a crispy exterior and soft interior like it's fresh. For long-term storage, freezing is your best bet. Just reheat and enjoy. Number 7. Onions, the enemy of flavor and freshness. Onions, the star of countless dishes like stir-fries, soups, salads, or even sandwich fillings, might make you cry when you chop them. But storing them in the fridge is what's truly worth crying over. The original content points out that the fridge's humidity causes onions to absorb moisture quickly, turning them soft, mushy, and mold-prone. Even worse, they spread their smell to other foods, ruining everything in your fridge. Plus, cold onions lose their signature flavor and can attract bacteria if not stored properly. I made this mistake once and paid a steep price, a lesson I'll never forget. One time, I bought a big bag of onions from the market, and since I couldn't use them all right away, I stashed them in the fridge's veggie drawer, thinking the cold would keep them fresh longer. Just a few days later, I opened the fridge and was hit by an overpowering onion stench. I checked and found the onions soft and mushy, with a few starting to mold on the outer layers. But the worst part? The smell had invaded everything. My butter tasted like onions. My milk had an onion tang. And even my apples couldn't escape this invasion. I spent an entire morning cleaning the fridge, deodorizing it with baking soda, and tossing out some contaminated food. A tragic experience I never want to relive. Since then, I've switched gears. I store onions in a mesh bag or bamboo basket, hanging them in a dry, airy pantry corner. They stay fresh longer, retain their crispness and flavor, and most importantly, spare my other foods from the dreaded onion perfume. A coworker of mine, Lynn, once shared that her mom kept onions in the fridge for years, thinking it was a modern storage method. One day, the family discovered their vanilla ice cream tasted like onions, and everyone burst out laughing, unsure whether to eat it or toss it. Lynn explained to her mom the downsides of fridge-stored onions, and her mom swore never to do it again. Lynn joked, "Onions taught our family a lesson we'll never forget. Onion-flavored ice cream isn't a dessert anyone enjoys." Onions have a natural protective skin that shields them from moisture. But the cold, humid fridge environment breaks down this barrier, causing them to rot and release stronger sulfur smells. If you cut an onion and store it in the fridge, bacteria like Pseudomonas can grow if it's not sealed properly, increasing the risk of food poisoning. If you've chopped an onion and need to store the leftovers, wrap it tightly in plastic wrap or put it in a sealed container, and use it within 1 to 2 days. For whole onions, hang them in a dry, well-ventilated spot. You'll be amazed at how they stay fresh for a month without the fridge. Number 6. Tomatoes, the silent victim of cruel cold. Tomatoes, the heart of countless dishes, from refreshing salads and rich sauces to fragrant pizzas, are one of the most misunderstood foods when it comes to storage. Do you keep tomatoes in the fridge? If so, you're killing their flavor and nutrients without even realizing it. The original content explains that cold temperatures disrupt the natural ripening process of tomatoes. causing them to lose key enzymes responsible for their signature sweet tart taste. The result? Tomatoes turn bland, mushy, with a cotton-like texture, and lose a significant amount of vitamin C, a vital antioxidant for health. I adore fresh tomatoes, that sensation of biting into a juicy one, with its sweet tart balance and distinct aroma, is simply irresistible. But once, I stored tomatoes in the fridge, thinking the cold would preserve them longer, especially during hot summer days. When I took them out to make a salad, I was utterly disappointed. They were like deflated water balloons. Cutting them released mostly water. They had no flavor, just a mushy, unpleasant texture. I tried using them for a sauce, but even cooked, the dish lacked the soul fresh tomatoes usually bring. Since then, I've changed my ways. I keep tomatoes on the kitchen counter, stem side down to retain moisture, away from direct sunlight. The results are fantastic. They ripen evenly, maintain their natural sweetness, and I no longer have to eat lifeless tomatoes. To me, the cold is a thief of joy. For tomatoes, don't let it ruin your favorite dishes. A friend of mine, Nam, once told me he kept tomatoes in the fridge for months because his mom said, cold is best. One day, he made a salad to impress his girlfriend, but when she tried it, she wrinkled her nose. Why are these so bland? They're like water. Nam was mortified, and when I explained how cold affects tomatoes, he was shocked. Oh my gosh. I've been eating fake tomatoes for a year without knowing. He started keeping them out after that and bragged that his girlfriend now loves his salads more than ever. He even joked, "Thanks to you, I saved my love life." Tomatoes are tropical fruits, and temperatures below 54 degrees Fahrenheit halt enzymes like polygylacturonase and lycopene synthase, the compounds behind their flavor and color. They not only lose taste but also nutrients. A University of Florida study found that tomatoes stored at room temperature retained 20% more vitamin C than those kept in the fridge. Have you ever stored tomatoes in the fridge and noticed the difference? Share your story with me in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Number 5. Garlic, superfood or hidden botulism risk. Garlic, a hero in folk medicine for boosting immunity, lowering blood pressure, and fighting inflammation, doesn't take kindly to the fridge's cold. The original content warns that cold temperatures cause garlic to sprout prematurely, losing its valuable allicin, the compound responsible for its aroma and health benefits. Even more alarming, if you chop garlic, mix it with oil, and store it in the fridge, it can become a breeding ground for Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria behind botulism, a rare but deadly illness that can lead to paralysis or death if untreated. I grew up hearing my grandmother's tales about garlic. She called it a natural antibiotic, and always kept it in a bamboo basket in the kitchen corner, never in the fridge. She'd say, "Garlic is alive, cold kills it." When I learned about the botulism risk, I realized how wise she was. Once, I chopped garlic, mixed it with oil, and stored it in the fridge, thinking it'd be handy for stir-fries. A few days later, I opened the jar and smelled something odd. Not the sharp garlic scent I loved, but a sour, off-putting odor. Terrified, I threw it out immediately and never tried it again. Now, I keep whole garlic bulbs in a dry, airy spot, and minced garlic I use right away or preserve in vinegar with a splash of lemon juice. To me, garlic is a superfood. Don't let the cold turn it into a hazard over a simple storage mistake. A friend, Tuan, once made garlic-infused oil and kept it in the fridge for a month, thinking it'd last. One day, he used it to stir-fry veggies and suffered severe stomach pain afterward. Luckily, it was just mild food poisoning, not botulism, but he swore off fridge-stored garlic forever. He said, "Garlic's my friend," but the fridge turned it into a dangerous foe. Botulism thrives in low-oxygen environments, like garlic in oil without acid preservatives. Fridge cold doesn't kill this bacteria, it only slows it down. And over time, the risk grows. The FDA advises that garlic in oil should be used within a week and acidified with vinegar or lemon juice to lower the danger. If you love garlic-infused oil, add some vinegar or lemon juice, keep it in the fridge, and use it within 7 days. For whole bulbs, leave them in the pantry, they'll stay fresh for a month without the cold. Number 4. Coffee, flavor stolen by cold dampness. Coffee, the spiritual elixir for millions each day, also makes the list. Do you store coffee in the fridge to keep it fresh? If so, you're ruining it. The original content notes that coffee is highly sensitive to moisture, odors, and light. In the fridge, it absorbs smells from other foods, losing its unique flavor and antioxidants like chlorogenic acid, compounds that benefit your heart and brain. As a coffee lover, I once tried storing coffee beans in the fridge, thinking the cold would preserve their freshness, especially after buying a big bag from a local roaster. The next morning, I brewed a cup and couldn't believe my nose. My rich, aromatic coffee smelled like onions. I realized the fridge, with its onions, butter, and assorted items, had gifted my coffee a horrific flavor. Since then, I've switched entirely. I store coffee in an opaque, airtight container in a dark, dry kitchen cabinet corner. The result? Every cup is bold, fragrant, and just like my favorite cafe's brew. To me, the cold is a flavor thief. Don't let it ruin your little daily joy. A coworker, once kept coffee in the fridge and brewed a pot that tasted like onion butter. She dumped the whole thing and switched to storing it in a sealed container outside. She laughed. I didn't know if I was drinking coffee or onion water, a hard-earned lesson. Coffee is hygroscopic, meaning it readily absorbs moisture and odors from its surroundings. In the fridge, humidity fluctuations from opening the door dampen it, killing its aroma and antioxidants. A National Coffee Association (NCA) study shows coffee stored at room temperature in a sealed container stays fresh for a month, while fridge storage degrades it in just a week. Use old coffee to deodorize your fridge, but don't put fresh coffee in there. Keep it pristine for your relaxing moments. If you buy in bulk, portion it out and freeze the unused part. It'll hold its flavor better than the fridge. Number 3. Honey, the immortal ruined by pointless cold. Honey, nature's liquid gold, with antibacterial properties and eternal shelf life, doesn't need the fridge. Yet many store it there unaware of the consequences. The original content warns that cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize rapidly, trapping air pockets and moisture when opened, making it prone to mold and stripping away its beneficial natural enzymes. I once saw my mom store honey in the fridge, and it turned into a solid sugar block, tough to scoop out. I had to dig at it with a metal spoon, and it was a real hassle. When I learned honey can last years at room temperature, thanks to its high sugar content and natural acidity, I was amazed. Now, I keep it in a sealed jar in a kitchen corner, and it stays smooth and ready for tea or baking. To me, honey is immortal. Don't ruin it with unnecessary cold. A friend, once kept honey in the fridge and had to chisel it out with a knife each time. When I explained it didn't need cold, she laughed. Oh my gosh, I thought cold was better. I turned my honey into a rock for a year. She switched to room storage and raved about how much better it tasted without crystals. Honey's low water content and pH of about 3.9 create an inhospitable environment for bacteria or mold. Cold causes glucose to crystallize out of solution. But this doesn't extend its life, it just lowers quality. If moisture seeps in from the fridge, it can ferment, turning sour and losing its antibacterial edge. Number 2. Bananas, victims of low temperatures. Bananas, a popular, potassium-rich, digestible fruit, can't handle the fridge. The original content notes that cold stops their ripening, blackens their peels, depletes antioxidants like dopamine, and encourages mold. I once stored bananas in the fridge to extend their life, but they turned black and mushy, like porridge, with no trace of their former goodness. Now, I hang them in the kitchen corner or keep them in a fruit basket, and they ripen evenly with natural sweetness. Bananas are tropical fruits. Let them live true to their nature. Have you ever kept bananas in the fridge? Tell me your experience in the comments. Number 1. Olive oil, the forgotten health enemy. Finally, olive oil, the king of heart health, tops the list. The original content warns that cold solidifies it, speeds oxidation, generates free radicals, and strips its anti-inflammatory properties. I used to store olive oil in the fridge, thinking it was fancy. But when I learned it could inflame rather than protect my heart, I switched to a dark bottle in a cabinet. The flavor stays robust, And I feel safer about my health. Don't let this golden friend betray you over the cold. Act now to protect your family. We've covered 9 foods to never store in the fridge: olive oil, bananas, honey, coffee, garlic, tomatoes, onions, bread, and potatoes. Each has reasons to hate the cold, from nutrient loss and toxin formation to flavor ruin. Check your fridge now, reorganize your kitchen, and safeguard your family's health. What do you think of this list? Share your stories in the comments. Like and follow for more tips. Don't let your fridge betray you. Take action today.